1806 by the American Locomotive Company. It was actually one of the last standard gauge steam engines to run freight in the entire nation. It last ran on these rails in 1962, and it was parked in that location in 1963. Now, for those of you on the downhill side of the train, you get to see two of Colorado's highest mountain peaks. If you are close to the caboose, however, you do have a house blocking your view. But for the rest of you, if you look to the left, the tallest pyramid-shaped peak you see there is Mount Albert. During today, you may hear a sequence of horns which will be blown from our caboose on the way up and from our engine on the way down. We will be blowing too long, a short, and a long at every single railroad crossing, and this is federal railroad regulation. It alerts cars and pedestrians to the fact that we are a living train. Now, for those of you who may be unfamiliar with Morse code, too long, a short, and a long stands for the letter Q. This was used back in England when the Queen was on board the train. You see, originally, trains used to stop at all of the railroad crossings unless the Queen was on board, and then they would blow this sequence of whistles to let everyone know that the train had the right of way. However, as trains got longer and heavier, it became very uneconomical for them to stop the trains at all the railroad crossings, so they decided to use this sequence of whistles regardless of whether the Queen was on board the train or not, and they continued using this all around the world. Now, many people do ask me about the large brick building beyond these little cabins on the downhill side of the train. That was the old St. Vincent's General Hospital of Leadville. It was built in 1901 by the Sisters of Charity of Leavenworth, Kansas, and served as Leadville's primary hospital until the new one was constructed in 1957. The old hospital was then abandoned for some time, but then it became apartments, and that is what it serves as currently. Now, looking further into town, you may notice a large building with 4 brick chimneys. That was Leadville's original high school, but it is now the National Mining Hall of Fame and Museum. If your stay in Leadville allows, I definitely recommend a visit to the Mining Museum. It has a lot of really neat exhibits about mining, not only in Colorado, but across the nation. Now, if you look on the uphill side of the train here, you can see a large tree mountain with a flat top. That mountain is Prospect Mountain, and our journey today will take us all the way around to the other side, and Prospect Mountain will sit between us and Leadville. Also on the uphill side of the train, if you are on the uphill side and then turn your head to the right at about a 45-degree angle, you can see some large tan, gray, and brown rock piles there against the tree hill. Now, coming up on the downhill side of the train, each weigh 120 tons and have a top speed of 66 miles per hour, and they each pump out 1,750 horsepower. Now, as the train rounds this next curve, we will enter into a lodgepole pine forest. Lodgepole pines can be identified by their narrow, straight trunks and by their yellow-green pine needles, which come in pairs of 2 if you look closely. The lodgepole pine gets its name from when the Native Americans used to use the straight trunks as a pole for their teepees, and so they called them the lodgepoles. Now that we are beginning to enter the woods, some of you may be wondering what sort of wildlife you'll be able to spot on the train today. Now, unfortunately, I did get word from our track crew that they forgot to open the wildlife pages this morning, so we may not see as much wildlife as we would like. Of course, I'm only kidding, ladies and gentlemen. Used to live who took care of the track here at Birdseye Curve year-round. There used to be a siding here at Birdseye Curve. Right near the end of the curve, you will see a flat, narrow area extending away from the train tracks to the uphill side of the train, and that's where the siding once sat. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very embarrassing, but I've just received a report from our engineer that our train has run out of fuel. Can I get any volunteers to help me give it a push from the caboose? Maybe we can get this thing rolling back down to town. Oh good, looks like we have a couple of volunteers we should... Isn't that cool? I just love the sound of that train horn echoing through the valley. It's another one of my favorite parts of the trip.
We're going back.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, at this time we will begin our journey back down towards the water tower stop. A couple quick footnotes though to the Climax Mine. It did reopen in 2012 and now employs around 300 people or so. Modern mining practices allow them to operate with a lot less staff. It was discovered there are many additional uses for moly other than just steel hardening. Turns out it's a great lightning agent, so if you brushed your teeth this morning, well, you brushed it with moly. It's also used in elemental research. It's used in... And it also has another very interesting use on the rocket engines of the space shuttles. This is due to molybdenum's extremely high melting point of 4,753 degrees Fahrenheit. And this also makes it a great additive to high-temperature lubricants. We actually use moly grease on our tracks due to the high-friction environment, and it's a wonderful grease. There's just nothing like it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be pulling into the water tower stop here very shortly, but before we get there, I want to run over a few quick rules. First of all, I want to remind you all that this area is completely non-smoking. This does include the use of e-cigarettes and vaping pens, as well as any other products, and we appreciate your cooperation with this. Also, if you purchased alcohol aboard the train today, it does need to remain on board during the water tower stop due to our alcohol license. We also ask you all to bring your trash back on board with you, as we do not wish to feed any bears that may be hanging around. We also ask you all not to climb on anything here at the water tower, such as the water tower itself, the ore cart, the artificial deer, the boiler, the train, the caboose. I think you get the idea. We also ask you all not to stay to the downhill side of the train. And do not wander out too far. This is just so you catch the train back to Leadville. It's a very long walk from here. When it's time to get back on board, the engineer will blow the horn, and that will be our cue to get back on board and get ready to ride. We will also be doing locomotive tours at this time. If you'd like to go through the locomotive, please step off the train, walk alongside, and then enter from the front or the nose of the locomotive. You'll have a chance to meet our engineer, Sean. You'll also have a chance to tour through that 1963 caboose you saw parked next to the side of the tracks. It will be beyond the locomotive, so head that direction and tour through the caboose. And our brakeman Isaiah will be happy to show you around. Thank you all very much, and I'll see you here at the French Gulch Water Tower stop.
Right there.
Thank you very much. And once again, when the horn blows, that's our cue to get back on board.
Darling, if you want to go see the engine, we better go now. Go see the engine.
Stay in there. What are you guys doing?
We're here for your photo.
Yeah,